कौन सा रेट पढ़ रहा है? कौन सब्जेक्ट?
बायो।
बायो बेटा 9th में हो? 9th में हो? 10th में हो? 10th में हो? साइंस
बायो अलग है, केमिस्ट्री अलग अलग होगी तीन।
तो सोइना मैम है ना इसलिए,
तीन बुक्स हैं
वरना वो साइंस है तो साइंस ही है कि नहीं? कौन सा चैप्टर?
कंट्रोल एंड कोऑर्डिनेशन। ये पूछेंगे कॉन्सेप्ट, कौन सा चैप्टर? कंट्रोल एंड कोऑर्डिनेशन। इतना समझ से बाहर
कंट्रोल एंड
कोऑर्डिनेशन
कितना पढ़ गई
पूरा।
बता ना, व्हाट इज साइनेप्स?
साइनेप्स, गैप बिटवीन टू न्यूरॉन्स।
क्या इतना सा?
पूरा पता तो है लेकिन होता है
क्या
पता तो है क्या होता है।
दिखा ना तेरे को अभी कुछ
पढ़ लिया हमने। अच्छा लाइव में कर रही है।
बता ना, हाउ द इंफॉर्मेशन ट्रैवल इन द नर्वस सिस्टम, बता ना कैसे? आता ही नहीं तुमसे बेटा। 10th में जो पूरा याद था, पूरा रटा हुआ सब कुछ, मेहनत थी मेरी। Thomson atom consists of positive charge matter in which negative charge electrons are distributed in matter like plummet pudding or seeds in water. The model could not explain the reason behind alpha scattering experiment. Alpha particles will proton beam the radioactive source. Gold foil most malleable within nucleus. Most of the particles went undeflected within 1 degree. Only 1 in 8,000 deflected more than 1 degree. Only 0.14% particle deflected more than 90. Hardly any particle deflected by 180 degree. Most of the space in an atom is at 0.14. Most of the space in an atom is empty, whole because the charge and almost the entire mass is concentrated in a very small region. This region is called core or nucleus. The core of nucleus is surrounded by clouds of electrons called electrons cloud. An exercise centripetal force is provided by the electrostatic force of attraction by nucleus and called electrons. It could not explain the reason behind line spectrum. It did not explain the reason behind stability of atoms. Distance of closest approach. It is the closest distance. It is the closest distance up to which the alpha particle can reach. K is equals to PE. Particle को न्यूक्लियस के कितने पास जा सकता है? Impact parameter. It is a perpendicular distance of velocity vector drawn from the central line of nucleus. Impact parameter gives trajectory and scattering angle of particle. Lesser impact parameter, larger scattering. V is equal to Z square cot theta by 2. Closest approach. क्या करेंगे? K is equals to PE. K जो 1/2 mv square is equals to 1/4 pi sigma naught ZE first square upon R naught. This is potential energy. So R naught is equals to 1/2 mv square. this is coming but R naught is equals to 1 upon 4 pi sigma naught 1 upon 4 pi sigma naught 2 z e का square upon 1 upon 2 mv का square. Lesser impact parameter larger string. B is equals to k z e का square cot theta by 2 upon k e. B is equals to k z e square cot theta by k z e square cot theta by 2. Lesser impact parameter larger spectrum. Atomic spectra. When a gas substance is heated and transition electrons occur, as a result energy is released. When a gas substance is heated, transition electrons. When a gas substance is heated and transition electrons occurs, as a result energy is released in the form of electromagnetic wave. When a gas substance is heated, transition electrons occurs. As a result, energy is released in the form of electromagnetic wave. Absorption spectra. Absorption spectra is a type of spectra like that contains a pattern of dark lines or the band contains of dark lines. These lines are created when electrons absorb energy to reach a higher energy state. डार्क लाइन्स आई क्योंकि स्पेक्ट्रम के टाइम वाइट लाइट की वेवलेंथ की काइनेटिक एनर्जी गैस एटम ने एब्जॉर्ब कर ली. Emission spectrum. An emission spectrum is a collection of different wavelengths of electromagnetic radiation emitted by atoms and molecules when they move from higher energy level to lower energy state. A German chemist Robert Brown spectroscope. So de Broglie's explanations for the Bose model sectors. de Broglie's मतलब वेवलेंथ होती है सर्कल मतलब n तो 2πr नहीं वेवलेंथ किसके इक्वल होती है h/p के h/p इक्वल होता है mv के. सो वेवलेंथ इज इक्वल्स टू h/mv. साथ ही किसके इक्वल होती है n/2πr और जितनी भी n वेवलेंथ है वो सर्कमफेरेंस से वो 2πr होगा. जब उसको इससे रिप्लेस करेंगे तो n/mv अपॉन इज इक्वल्स टू 2πr. अब n/2π नीचे और mvr इज लीनियर. L is equals to n/2π. Exactly the Rutherford atomic model of an atom was proposed. The atomic model of explain spectra emitted hydrogen. Nuclear concept. Electrons revolves around the atom as planets revolves around the sun. For the centripetal force provided by the electrostatic force F is equal to an atom can only revolve in those orbits. An atom can only revolve in those orbits whose angular momentum is nh/2π. While one point orbits and does not radiate energy, these non-radiating orbits are called stationary orbits. Frequency condition. An atom radiates energy only when an electron jumps from one stationary orbit of higher energy to another lower energy. Radius of orbit of height. Vessel center force of required to the Nautilus pilot. Fc is equals to Fe. Simple mv square upon r. Kze electrostatics. E upon r square. So v square is equals to रखेंगे r से इससे r स्क्वायर कट जाएगा बस kze e अपॉन यहाँ पे r n हो जाएगा. Then we know that also क्या बचा हमारे पास क्या बता एन वी आर इज इक्वल्स टू एन एच अपॉन 2 पाई. तो v इज इक्वल्स टू क्या हो जाएगा v square is equals to kze का स्क्वायर अपॉन kze का स्क्वायर अपॉन r n और v स्क्वायर इज इक्वल टू m स्क्वायर h स्क्वायर अपॉन 4 पाई स्क्वायर m स्क्वायर r स्क्वायर हम लोग क्रिएट करा देंगे. बचेगा क्या r इज इक्वल टू n स्क्वायर h स्क्वायर अपॉन 4 पाई स्क्वायर m kze का स्क्वायर फॉर हाइड्रोजन. z इज इक्वल टू क्या होता है 1 मतलब कि r किससे प्रोपोर्शनल है n स्क्वायर से. मतलब हाइड्रोजन का करेंगे so 1:4:9 to infinity आएगा. अगर एनर्जी -13.6 है तो काइनेटिक एनर्जी +13.6 होगी और पोटेंशियल एनर्जी -2 into ke. 1/λ इज इक्वल्स टू r 1/n1 का स्क्वायर माइनस 1/n2 का स्क्वायर. 1/λ is equal to r under bracket 1/n1 का स्क्वायर 1/n2 का स्क्वायर 1/n1 का स्क्वायर 1/n2 का स्क्वायर. From highest to 2 and 1 क्या आएगा तो n-3 and 2 क्या आएगा तो Waldemar series, Lyman series, Waldemar series, Edstrom series, Lyman series, Waldemar series, Edstrom series, Graphic series, Fender series. इसमें ना किसी भी हायर ऑर्डर से वन पे आएगा तो जैसे लाइनमैन, सेकंड पे आएगा तो लाइनमैन, सेकंड पे आएगा तो बलमार, फर्स्ट पे आएगा तो लाइनमैन, सेकंड पे आएगा तो बलमार, थर्ड पे आएगा तो पास्टन, फोर्थ पे आएगा तो ब्रैकेट, फिफ्थ पे आएगा तो फंड। फर्स्ट पे लाइनमैन, बलमार, पास्टन, ब्रैकेट, लाइनमैन, बलमार, पास्टन, एक्सेस, फंड। लाइनमैन सीरीज में आता अल्ट्रावायलेट रेस, बलमार का था विजिबल डिवीजन, पास्टन का था इंफ्रारेड, ब्रैकेट पे आता है इंफ्रारेड, फंड पे आता है फार इंफ्रारेड। तो लाइनमैन, बलमार, पास्टन, ब्रैकेट, फंड। अल्ट्रावायलेट, विजिबल रीजन, इंफ्रारेड रीजन, फार इंफ्रारेड रीजन, देन इंफ्रारेड और फार इंफ्रारेड, लास्ट वाले फार इंफ्रारेड। अगर लाइनमैन आ रहा है मिनिमम वेवलेंथ में एंड टू पर गिरेगा तो इनफाइनाइट लेना है। मिनिमम वेवलेंथ चाहिए तो एंड टू को इनफाइनाइट लेना है, और मैक्सिमम चाहिए तो एस टू प्रोवाइड लेना है। पास वाले इसलिए एंड पास वाले ऑब्जेक्ट से मिलने पर मैक्सिमम वेवलेंथ मिलती है। Excitation energy, the energy required to transfer an electron from the ground state to excited energy required to transfer electron from the ground state to excited state is called excitation energy. Potential, excess potential difference through which an electron should be accelerated. An electron should be accelerated. The potential difference through which an electron potential difference through which an electron potential difference through which an electron should be accelerated to reach the higher energy state from lower energy state. Potential difference through which an electron should be accelerated to reach the higher. Found that volume of nucleus is proportional to mass number A if the radius of nucleus is r, then its volume proportional to mass number 4/3 pi r cube. R is equals to r naught A1/3. R naught is a constant 1.2 Fermi 10 to the power -15. Density of nucleus is the ratio of mass of nucleus and its volume, and be the average mass and the average mass flow. ME होगा मास नंबर, होगा मास ME होगा A से A का दरार स्लाइड को मास पुटिंग द वैल्यू, तो एवरेज मास लिया है उसमें है, उस पर एटॉमिक नंबर का जो करेंगे तो वो आ जाएगा 833. सो ME अपॉन 4 pi r 3 pi r naught A. सो डेंसिटी लिखी जाएगी 3m 4 pi r naught. तो सॉल्व करेंगे तो क्या आएगा 2.29 into 10 to the power 17 kg per meter cube. It is the unit to measure the mass of atom, nucleus or nucleons of atom. It is the unit to measure atomic mass. One AMU is defined as the 1/12 part of the mass of carbon-12 atom. 1 AMU or 1 U is the 1/12 mass of carbon-12. 1.66 into 10 to the power minus 27 kg. It is the force that binds neutrons and protons together inside nucleus. It is the force that binds neutrons and protons together inside nucleus. प्रोटॉन न्यूट्रॉन को एक साथ बांध के रखा है भाई. And force is independent of charge and force is short range force. It is non-central force. It becomes repulsive at distance less than 0.8 Fermi. The difference between sum of masses of nucleus and the mass of whole nucleus are called mass defect. Binding energy, it is measured as the energy required to separate nucleons to infinite distance. Einstein mass motivation E is equal to 1 to binding energy to del m upon c square, del m into c square. Energy required to remove one nucleon from nucleus is called binding energy per nucleon. Average binding energy for lighter nuclei is very small. Binding energy is maximum 8.8 MeV square. It shows that Argon-56 is most stable element in. There are sharp peaks for their nuclear relatively more stable than the other nuclei than their neighborhood. बोल मोबाइल क्या पढ़ रहा है
इमरजेंसी वाला हो यानी इमेजिन करो आपके पीछे कुत्ता पड़ गया तो होते हो ना क्यों उस टाइम पे आपकी एड्रेनलिन हार्मोन
लो It is defined as the mass defect per nucleon. Mass defect per nucleon is Becking fraction. In fission, when neutrons are bombarded on a heavy nucleus, it is placed into two nearly equal light fragments. In fusion, at a very high temperature and high pressure, two nucleons combine to form heavy nucleus. This reaction is possible at ordinary temperature and ordinary pressure. This reaction is possible only in the very high temperature nuclear fusion, high temperature 10 to the power 7 K and very high pressure. In the fission process is less than that of fusion process. For same mass, the energy released in fusion process is much more than that in fission process. The fissionable substance is radioactive. This fissionable substance is not radioactive. Radioactive, fissionable, not radioactive, fissionable. The fissionable substance is found within limit are in abundance. Fuel abundance limits. Signal process can be controlled. Nuclear reactions में ये लिमिट में फाउंड होते हैं. Can be controlled. लिमिट में फाउंड होते हैं. रेडियोएक्टिव फाउंड होते हैं. नॉन रेडियोएक्टिव cannot abundance and uncontrollable. Fusion reaction cannot be controlled. The short fusion reactor could not be constructed so far. Atom bombs are based on uncontrollable fission reaction. Based on uncontrolled fission reaction. And hydrogen bombs are based on uncontrolled fusion reaction. Fusion reaction. Optics, neutrons, crystal horizon, treatise on light. Optical instrument are the device that can be extend the range of human eye. Microscope, simple compound, telescope, reflecting, neutron, reflecting astronomical terrestrial, reflecting astronomical terrestrial, reflecting at astronomical terrestrial, reflecting neutron कैसे गए, reflecting neutron कैसे गए, reflecting astronomical terrestrial. Semiconductors are the material that act as insulator at zero Kelvin. Semiconductor room temperature. Elemental semiconductor, silicon, germanium, compound semiconductor, organic, inorganic, or physical. Inorganic. तो inorganic में germanium, gallium arsenide and indium phosphide. Gallium arsenide and indium phosphide. Semiconductor. It is prepared by adding pentavalent impurities in pure semiconductor. यार कितना सौ क्या वॉइस मत कर पढ़ लेंगे
अच्छे से पढ़ाई।
There is a certain frequency below which emission of electrons from matter is not possible. This frequency is called threshold frequency. There is a certain frequency below which emission of electrons from matter is not possible. This frequency is called threshold frequency. The KE of emitted electrons depends on the frequency of incident radiation. Increasing the frequency of radiation theory. Phi 12 phi. अनमोल इधर आना वहाँ पे वो रखा होगा पार्ट 2 फिजिक्स
क्या?
पार्ट 2 रखा होगा पतली सी बुक है अरे ऐसी दिखने वाली और इस कलर की देख दिया यार वही है The mutual electric force between two charges is given by the Coulomb's law. For to calculate the force on a charge where there is not one but several charges, consider a system and a station currently in vacuum. What is the force Q1 due to Q2 and there's a Coulomb's law. Not answer the questions. Recall the force mechanism also according to the parallelogram law addition in the circuit proof for the full electrostatic order. Parallelogram law of addition. Topics to be learned today. Parallelogram law, triangle law. In the same true for the forces of electrostatic order. That force on any charge due to a number of other charges, the vector sum of all the forces on that charge due to it is verified that force on a charge due to a number of other charges, the vector sum of all the forces on that charge due to the other charges taken on one at a time. The individual forces are unaffected due to the presence of other charge. This term is the principle of superposition. To better understand the concept, consider a system of three charges Q1, Q2 and Q3. The forces on the charges Q1 due to the perform the vector addition. Thus, if the force on Q1 due to Q2 is vectored by F12 and F12 is given by the F12 ये आएगा. In same way, the force on Q1 due to Q3 noted by which again the Coulomb's force on Q1 due to Q3 even though other charges Q2 is present. So the total force F1 on Q1 due to the charges Q2 and Q2 is given as F1 is equal to F12 plus F13. एक दोनों को प्लस करना पड़ेगा बट टोटल चार्ज इज अफेक्टेड बट सिंगल चार्ज नॉट अफेक्टेड. The force can rise to a system charges more than the Q1. The principle of superposition is that in a system charges Q1 and Qn, the force Q1 and Q2 same as the given as the Coulomb's law. It is unaffected by the presence of the other charges. The total force F1 on the charge Q1 due to the all other charges is given as the vector sum of the forces. Vector sum of the forces. Vector sum of the forces. The vector sum obtained as usually by the parallelogram law of addition. All the electrostatic is basically the concept of Coulomb's law in the field. वही गिलास
It's a B. The vector sum is obtained as usual by the parallelogram law of addition. हाँ परदेसी कहाँ लगा मैं देसी
सब बढ़िया. इधर फेंक दो बाहर. भर दो उसको. अरे ठीक है वो मेरा वो कोई भाई डाल के आ गया. 40 मिनट पढ़ लिया मैंने. Let us consider a point charge Q placed in vacuum at the origin O. If we place another point charge Q at a point P where OP is equals to R, then the charge Q will exert a force on Q. As per Coulomb's law, we make sure the question if the charge Q is equal to then the charge. Let us consider a point charge Q placed in vacuum at the origin O. If we place another point charge Q at the point P where OP is equals to R, then the charge Q will exert a force on Q as per Coulomb's law. If charge Q is removed, then what is left in the surrounding? It's nothing, and there is nothing upon. Then how does a force act and we place a charge Q at the P? In order to answer such questions, thus earlier understood a concept field. This we said that charge Q produces an electric field everywhere surrounding when another charge Q is about at the same point. The field air act it is and produce a force. The electric field produced by the charge Q at the point R is given as ER R vector R upon a unit vector from the origin to point. First, specify the value of electric field for the position of the vector R. The field signifies how the disturbance quantity which equal and opposite an alternate unit of V upon M will be introduced in this next chapter. Electric field V by M. Look now. This is R vector. R cap RY R is a unit vector from the origin to the point R. Thus, value of electric field for each value of the position vector R. The word field signifies how some disturbance distributed quantity which could be scalar or vector varies with position. The effect of the charge has been incorporated in the we obtain the force F. Note that the charge Q also exerts an equal and opposite force on the charge Q. The electrostatic force between the charges Q and Q can be looked upon on the interaction between charge Q and the electric field of Q, vice versa. So the position of charge Q by the vector R, it is for V the electric field due to a charge Q is numerically equal to the force exerted by it. Thus, due to a charge Q at a point in a space may be defined as a force that a unit positive charge would experience if placed at that point. The charge Q which is producing the electric field is called source charge. Producing the charge Q electric field is called a source charge, and the charge Q which attacks the effect of the source charge is called Rest effects of a source of charge are called Tesla. Note that source charge Q must remain at its origin location. However, if a charge Q is about at any point Q itself is bound to experience an electrical force due to charge. A way out of difficulty to make Q negative or small. This force is then negligible. A practical way to get around the problem of keeping Q undistributed in the presence of Q2 is to hold Q is its location as this may look strange but actually practical around the problem of keeping Q undisturbed since this is what happens in practice. When we are considered an electric force on a test charge Q due to charged planar sheet. The charges on a sheet are held to their locations by the forces due to unspecified charges constantly inside the sheet. Note that electric field E due to Q through defined operating in a term of such some test charge Q is independent of Q. This is because F is proportional to Q, so the ratio F from Q electric field due to a system of charge. A practical way to get around the problem of keeping Q undistributed in the presence of Q is to hold Q to its location by an specified force. This may look strange, but actually this will happen in practice. When we consider electric force on a test charge Q due to a charged planar sheet, the charges on a sheet are held to location by the force due to the unspecified charge constant inside the sheet. Note that electric field E due to Q through defined operating the systems of some test charges Q is independent of Q. This is because F proportional to Q, so that the FQ does not depend on Q. The force F on the charge Q due to the charge Q depends on the particular location of charge Q, which may be. Thus, electric field E due to Q is also dependent space coordinate R for different position of the charge Q all over the space. We get different value of electric field E. The field exists at every point in three-dimensional space. For a positive charge, the electric field will be directed radially. For a positive charge, electric field will be directed radially. If the source charge is negative, the electric field vector on the other hand, if the source charge is negative, then the electric field vector at a point radially inverts. From the charge, on the other hand, if the source charge is negatively The electric field vector attractor. This is the magnitude of the force F on the charge Q. The charge Q depends on your distance R, charge Q, and constant magnitude of the electric field E will also depends only on the distance R. Thus, at equal distances from the charges Q, the magnitude of its electric field is same to the electric field E due to the point charge. Is thus sin n on a sphere with the point charge at its center. In other words, it has a spherical symmetry. Wonder why a notion of electric field has been introduced. अनमोल मम्मी सो रही है रुकना system has two charges Q8 given. When two light waves of same frequency, constant or zero phase difference traveling in same direction superimpose each other such that crest of one wave meets the trough of another wave, the intensity of light becomes too young. Such interference called destructive. Direction of weight should also be the same. The amplitude of the both weights should be same. The amplitude of the both weights should be also be the same. The splits of both the sources should be thin. Coherent of light are the those sources having source some wavelength frequency and in the same phase, or they have a constant phase difference. The phonema light and the reflection of light shows that light has a wave nature, while the phonema light photoelectric effect shows that light has particle nature. Hence, this is called dual nature of radiation. Electrovolt smallest unit energy. Electrovolt. ये मैथ्स के फॉर्मूला रिवाइज करेंगे. टू cos minus 2 sin यहाँ पे 2 sin cos 2 cos sin, ठीक. Cos x plus y plus cos x minus y. So 2 cos x cos y, 2 cos x cos y cos x plus y plus cos x minus y, cos x plus y minus cos x minus y, cos x plus y minus cos x minus y is equal to minus 2 sin x minus sin y. Tan 2x, tan 2x to tan x upon 1 minus tan square x, tan 2x to tan x upon 1 minus tan square x, sin 2x to tan x upon 1 plus tan square x to tan x upon 1 plus tan x. ठीक. It is the preparation method of alkane. Its creation, 2 molecules of alkyl halide reacts with sodium in the presence of Grignard reagent. X or OH. More alkyl group containing alkenes is major product. ये अल्फ़ा होगा, ये बीटा होगा, ये बीटा होगा, तो KOH इथेनॉइक इथेनैक major product more alkyl group containing alkene is major product. Which have more than one donor is called electrophilic static nucleofication. अभी मैं पढ़ रही हूँ मैट्रिक्स, क्लास 12 मैथ्स मैट्रिक्स। आप लोगों के साथ जल्दी वीडियो शेयर करूँगी मैट्रिक्स के ऊपर। कल अगर आपको पढ़ना है मैट्रिक्स तो आप आ सकते हैं, इतने ही बचे। cos x minus sin x, x sin x cos x, theta f x y is equals to 0 minus tan alpha y2 tan alpha y alpha y2 tan alpha y2। Okay, bye guys.